Facebook of all the banned internet sites: Vizio, YouTube, Facebook.
All the ones that defy government control, right? Because we already know who the sellouts are. Verizon, okay, all those, even Google, to a certain extent, is a sellout. But you know, there's stuff happening around the world. Even China, in their latest incarnation of their rules, is lightening up because they realize the system will implode if we don't keep adding more.
They still haven't allowed Facebook over there, though.
Yeah, but they will.
Eventually.
You know what you need? I'll tell you what. 10 more years and the death of a certain generation. I'm sorry to say that, but that is the case. They are. No. I'm just saying it's the case that they're not. Rare is the older person who doesn't see the new as the proof that evil is going to win. You know what I mean? And we even have well-defined eschatologies that explain to us that the world that is currently moving, that's evil, and a proof that it's evil, and that what do we want? We want some Bronze Age concepts to come back and put it the way it's supposed to be, whatever that means. And it's not going to occur. You know, we might as well get started. I think maybe if they come on, okay, great. If they don't, okay, great. I know I already said good morning, so I will say it again.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Anybody got anything they want to share? Not need. You could need, and if you needed, you most certainly could share. And we're glad you're back. Glad you're feeling better. You've been in our prayers. You've been in my prayers. You were in our little. I put you in our little group meditation. I put you in the center. We have a thing when we do our meditation. We put all the people in the circle, people that are on our minds, and then we all corporately pray for them. And you were in there. It's like, well, get her. She needs to get better.
Well, today I'm going to see a niece that I haven't seen since she was a baby because of an estranged family situation. So her sister I've been seeing off and on for a couple of years. So I'm very excited. I'll be in that circle today.
Cool. What's the niece's name?
Her name is Sarah, and her sister is Naomi. They're coming in from Texas.
Sarah, Naomi, cool. You know, it's always fun when you can be a part of restoration. See, I mean that's just really what all this stuff we're talking about every Sunday morning is really all about, is being a part of it, not waiting for it to come, but manifesting what is already, right? We just the best they could explain it in the past was the best way they explained it, with what they knew, right? Anybody else have anything to share?
Yeah, is your little camera on?
My little camera's on.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, they're having drama back east, so tribal stuff.
Nice another human.
Yeah, it's tribal stuff. You know what I mean? It's amazing that atheists are very tribal.
Go figure.
They're very, very tribal, and they're already talking about restricting certain individuals. You know, and they're, why? What are you guys talking about? You know what I mean? What is this stuff? You know, restricting what? Where are you getting your ideas from? The Church of the Middle Ages? You know, a lot of times the group you resist the most, if you're not careful, you actually become their methodologies, and you end up looking a whole lot like them, just using different language, but you end up looking a lot like them. It's kind of just the way it is. You know, last week we talked about the fruit of the Spirit. Did anybody notice anything about those words, the fruit of the Spirit? Did you notice that none of those things are actual material things? Kindness, good, they're not material. They're not material things. They're essences. They're unseen things. Show me love. I mean, it's really hard, isn't it? Show me. You have to demonstrate it, don't you? But it's saying that there's an essence behind those things. There's something which is called the Spirit is pushing that agenda. Let us say, right. It's interesting that John says that the light came into the world and the world didn't know it. It even came to the people who had been given information about its arrival, but they were clueless as to, when it did show up, how it looked, right? Which was Christ, because it didn't show up angry, upset, ticked off, self-righteous, wanting to oppose and dethrone, right? It came how? In forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, meekness, love. It came wrapped in an understanding that they could not comprehend, right? They couldn't get it. It came to a world that wasn't even analog. It wasn't digital, it wasn't analog. It was just darkness, is the way John explains it. You know, people's views towards each other were dark. The way people treated each other and the way they structured the world was that the powerful, and it still happens, let's face it, the powerful oppress the weak. And so the wonderful statement in Luke where it says, I'm anointed by the Spirit, and this is what my reign, or the reign of my ideas, the reign of the Spirit that empowers me, this is what it's going to look like. It's going to free people that are captives. You're not going to be able to own slaves anymore. Now, how long even in this country was that idea rejected? Right? Let's not make it spiritual. Let's make it practical, because all these things are not material, but they do affect the material world. If you start loving your enemy, but you only do it for a week and it doesn't work, and so you dump it, right? It doesn't work until you say, well, no, this doesn't work. Then you go back to what you know, which is what? War, conflict, struggle, opposition. You know, in Christianity we call it apologetics. You're going to argue other people into truth and into love, and no, you're not. You're just not going to do it. It doesn't work. We are in what is called the age of Aquarius. And I wanted to read a little something on that, if I can find it. And, you say, well, yeah, because, you know, when you study the scriptures, and almost any holy scriptures, they knew stuff. You know, how did the wise men know to show up for the birth, not the birth, but many years later when he was Peanuts age? You know, he was a little bit older than a baby. How did the wise men know to show up? I know in the scenes, the wise men are there, but they showed up actually later. They weren't actually there for the birth. This wouldn't work that way. That'd be tremendous timing, by the way. If you could show up right on the day the woman gives birth, that would be like, whoa, all right. Suffice it to say, they got there eventually. They knew by the stars. They knew things that were occurring in the real world by watching the heavenly world. By watching that, how did they know that? Because Daniel, who mixed a little bit of Judaism with a little bit of understanding of the cosmos that he had learned in Babylon, he had learned some things. Everything that everybody else believes is not worthless. It is not meaningless. It is not only your language and the way you understand God that has meaning. Again, we have to get away from this concept of tribalism and our tribal God and the way we understand God. And we need to move towards, it really has to blend. And so here, Aquarius is designated as the sign of the realm of the organization and projection of social ambitions and ideals. Leo, its polarity, is involved with the same sphere of influence, but carries out its role in a highly personalized matter. Leo is concerned with the preservation of the one, while Aquarius is preoccupied with the needs and interrelationships of the many. So we see we begin to move into this age where you begin to have a concept of your unity with God, but that's not where it ends. And that's the problem with a lot of theology, especially a lot of Christian theology. It's all about you, and all about you getting to heaven and avoiding hell. It's all about personal, but yet there's no concern for outside, because that's all bad. You see, all out there, that's bad. That's all going to hell. It's all going to burn. I have a new rule now. Don't vote for anybody who thinks the world is going to end in a fireball. Good rule of thumb. Don't vote for anybody whose eschatology is the world is going to end soon in a fiery furnace. No, don't just say, check them off your list. And you know who those people are, so I don't even have to say it. But anyway, these ideas of the fruit of the Spirit, I think we're at that age now where we're ready to truly become the sons and daughters of light. That we are ready to blend our world. Now first, your world blends because you've got to blend your world. How many times do you run into people who are religious, but their family is in total conflict and they can't even stand the people closest to them, can't stand them, but they're saved and they're going to heaven, but there's no integration there. That is purely just an intellectual construct, right? There's no way and that's why it's not believable anymore. That's why having an idea that what your goal in life is to save people to some place called heaven and oh, to hell with everything else, is just not biblical. And it's not spiritual and it's not Jesus. Okay? It's not. And so this Aquarian age is this idea that A, you're going to love yourself. Wow. That's a lot of work. You're going to love yourself. Stop doubting yourself so much. Then when you kind of get a feel on that, you'll start realizing you need to love others at that same level. And then you love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And that becomes this kind of circle, but flattened, that moves out, like a rock in a pond. And it begins to have this ripple effect. And I know that's a very Zen way of looking at it, but it's okay because I can mix my metaphors now, and it's all quite good.
Without raising your blood pressure?
Absolutely. Without worrying about the Monday morning quarterbacking that I knew I was going to get. Kevin Flynn in the movie Tron. See, the biggest thing about our theology is that we think the creation is all about perfection, and somehow it's not perfect, and we're going to make it. Someday it's going to be perfect. Well, it's not going to be perfect here, but you were told that you were born and you weren't perfect, but that God wanted you to be perfect, and so since you're not perfect, you're going to hell. Anybody else heard that besides me? Am I the only one that heard that story? Am I the only one that believed that story? Okay, I don't believe that story anymore. I reject it. Because why would God or Source or Spirit even play that game? How silly. So I knew I was loved from birth. My mom tells me stories. She'd wake up in the morning and I was already up, sitting in the crib, looking out, just staring at them. She says, "You would just sit there and just stare at us." She said, "I knew you were looking." She said, I don't remember, but I must have been scary even then. Here's the thing. The thing about perfection, Kevin Flynn says, the thing about perfection is that it's unknowable. It's impossible. But it's also right in front of us all the time. My favorite commercial now is where it says perfect. Cost of 2 tickets to Disneyland, X amount of dollars. And then it shows a picture of the man with his daughter at Disneyland, and then it says priceless. Perfection. Every night I get perfection. I get to cuddle my wife. That in my world, that is perfection. Don't need to add anything to it. There's not a better way. There's not it. Perfection. See? He says it's impossible, but it's also right in front of us all the time. You wouldn't know that because I didn't when I created you. I'm sorry, Clue. I'm sorry. See, Clue is all about. It's kind of old religion. You see, you got God. He wants it perfect. It ain't perfect. Dad is mad. He's so mad, he's going to burn it all up, throw it all away, drown everybody, right? You have this idea in previous, the way people understood spirituality, and they recorded it, and we're glad they did, because everybody needs to be honest about their journey, and your journey needs to be recorded. But there's been a lot more journeys since that journey. We can look back and see them. We'd say, oh my goodness, how dark. Right? But that's the one thing I like about dispensationalism. It admits that dispensation is past. I remember I used to believe in 7 dispensations. Right, the first one, innocence, right, and then the fall, and then, right, and now we are in what is called the age of the Spirit, or some people call the age of Aquarius. Right, where now whenever things begin to blend, there's some people don't want to blend, and then they will say blending is evil. It's okay. There's always resistance. Right? Someone had to make the last buggy whip. And I'm sure the last guy who made the last buggy whip made the best darn buggy whip there was. But it just doesn't make any sense when you're driving a Model T to be sitting there smacking the side of it with a buggy whip. It's just, it does not work. His son says, Skin says, no, he's me, talking about Clue. I screwed it up, chasing after perfection, chasing after what was right in front of me. See, all these movies, there's a reason why I love The Matrix. There's a reason why I love this Tron. Because you see, it talks about the virtual world is a way to understand the creation, how it came from another place. You know, I turn on my computer and the world, it didn't exist, no time, no nothing, and then I turn on my computer and the processor creates this world. So that there's a user, right? We would call that God, right? I work for the user. So that's what I'm going to tell you right now. I work for the user. Okay? I'm in here. Jesus says, I'm not going to take you out. You work for the user. I worked for the user, and I didn't get him very far. Well, got him on a cross. Amen? It got him on a cross. Worked for the user, and he said, love, love, love. It's easy. And they said, you're going to die. That construct is not going to work here. We want someone who's going to come and kill the other guy, put us on top, because we want to rule, right? And we want to rule with an iron rod. And people love to quote that on the Calvary Chapel channel. They love that verse about the iron rod, right? It's a metaphor, people. It's just a metaphor. It's not literal. You know, our children, we're trying to understand our children because they are so comfortable in a virtual world. They prefer it. They're always, and I like a virtual world too. It's amazing. I bought my wife a Kindle Fire, and it took her a while to get into it. But now, of course, with my daughter being married, we're planning a wedding in May, and then they're all the time on the virtual world looking at information for the real world. Because why? Because faith is the substance of what? Things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So we admit there is the world that we live in, and then there is another one with all this potentiality busting in here, looking for what? Cooperation. For sons and daughters of light. Now, you have to cooperate with kindness. So kindness is not going to be imposed upon you. Oh, Jesus, please make me kind. Stop that silly prayer. Oh, God, please make me loving. No. Then you can say, oh, God, please forgive me for not being loving. And now you're stuck in your causality loop. Right? Well, I guess it's just, I'm just a sinner and I just have to wait till Jesus comes and then someday blah, 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 blah. You know the routine, right? Show up every week and get your dose of forgiveness. All right? No. It is. It's lazy. If you're going to love, you have an opportunity, and then you'll just do it and express it. Kindness, patience. You just begin to, because you realize these things are power. They're real power. They're the power that brought what we consider the real world into existence. But cavemen, quite frankly, weren't interested in it. Now, I live in Anzus, so I know all about cavemen. They're still around. All right, okay. Someone's got to lead the way, right? Someone has to, and that's the story of Christ, right? Philippians 2 says, although he existed in the form of God, he thought not equality with God a thing to be grasped, but he emptied himself and took on the form, right? Okay, let's show him one more time. One more time, here we go. But they're not ready. Now we're at a place where collectively there's more people thinking this way than ever before. What? That it's both the one, and the one could be just your country. Okay, for a while, we tried to unite, we had a problem with uniting just our country. And we had a struggle over what? Over slavery, over owning people. And some people said that's not right and we can't move forward until we deal with this issue. Now that issue, it's funny, is coming up again, but because some people have not bought in to the blend. You see? So that issue's coming back again, but in a different form, because until it's actually put down, you know, the scriptures say, until all things come under the feet of what? Of Jesus, of what? Of love, of kindness. Everything has to come under there, and there's a struggle. Because it's easier to become wealthy by oppressing people. If you don't oppress people, you have to give more of your stuff away, but you live more in balance, more in harmony. And Mr. Banks said this, it could always all be unreal. How could you ever tell otherwise? You look at it in trust, in part because what would be the point of doing anything else? Whether this is a real world or a virtual world, God's world, created from God, and so God is the CPU, the compute, and then there's the world, right? Here it is. It doesn't matter what it is, you have to believe. You have to believe something. And you can either be waiting for it all to fall apart, or you can realize that you are an integral part of it, starting with your own clan. You know, it's fun as pastor to like watch families in our group and to watch them beginning to unite. And it's hard to keep a diverse, isn't it, Grandma? It is hard to keep diverse generations and people of different worldviews together. It's difficult. And sometimes we have to look to the least and to the weakest to actually get the information we need. You know, Keith quoted something yesterday about his little boy said something. What did he say?
He said that God lives on the other side of the stars, Dad. And that when we die, our spirit goes back where it came from. And this is just in the back of the car in the parking lot of Ralph's. Just and he says, you know, some people got the Bible wrong. He says, well, you know, it's a book. It could be misunderstood. He says, but some people got it way wrong. Okay. All right, buddy. I'm going to make a note of that.
You know, it took me 56 years to get there. He says, in part because what would be the point of doing anything else? When the fake behaved exactly like the real, why treat it as anything different? You gave it the benefit of the doubt until something proved otherwise. Did anybody practice their, why do the breathing and the one-word prayers? Why do that? Why do it? Because I believe that what I'm doing is making a difference. How do you know that, Pastor? Well, it's anecdotal. You know what an anecdotal is? I'm watching. But I know it's going to take a long time, right? How long from when we were in caves to now? To on the moon? Long time. If you're going to move in this kind of power, you have to be willing for small, incremental, evolutionary changes. With the occasional, boop, comes on you all of a sudden. Anybody have one of those? All of a sudden it's like wham, and you just get, you get like a download that's overload. I get that from time to time. I'll get a download that's overload. Now what I get is every now and then I get a download to update my program. Right? So see, when you have this relationship with God, and you are in contact with God, prayer and meditation, and just mindfulness about God and creation, every now and then you get an upload. You get a little bit of upgrade on your processing, your software. Right? You get a little upgrade. And then you look back and you say, wow, I could have never pictured myself being here when I was there. Just look back 2 years ago. Just look back 3 years ago.